Morning, John Gilkison, Aero Stealth here, and it is Friday, um, February 20th, 2026, and this video is on thoughts on 120,000 miles of electric car driving. And it's accumulation of some other videos I did. I'm summarizing basically here. But we've, since 2017, we've owned 3 separate cars, which involved electric powertrains. And I got curious because I seen a video someone else shot about how they had driven over 100,000 electric miles, and I wondered how many miles I'd driven. So I went through my records, stitched everything together, and it turns out I've driven 120,000 electric miles, me and my wife. And so this is different than people just having an opinion. You know, they've never driven an electric car, or they've only maybe ridden in one once, seen them from afar, know what they know from the news, especially the FUD news. And if you actually buy one and own one and drive one on a regular basis, you have an entirely different perspective. And it's not speculative. It's just based on real experience. So that's what I wanted to talk about here. But the first car we owned was a Ford C-Max. We got it new in 2017. And it's a plug-in hybrid electric. And it only had 20 miles of electric only range. I think it had a 5.6 kilowatt hour battery pack in it. And it only had 49 horsepower electric motor. So if you really got your foot into it, the gas motor would kick on to assist it. But it was just amazing how fast and zippy that 49 horsepower of electric motor in that car was. And it weighed 4,500 pounds. And yet it could push that car around. And, it just sets you thinking, because you're still carrying around a gasoline engine. You have to take it in for regular oil changes, which I only did every 5,000 miles, because I figured if I was only driving it with a gas engine half the time, I should base my oil changes on engine hours, not on just some scheme to change your oil every 3,000 miles. It just doesn't make any sense. And I'm almost positive I'm right about that. So anyway, we owned the car for a couple of years, and we put about 60,000 miles on it, about 3 years. And we drive a lot of miles because we live about 20 miles from town, and we go to town quite often. As a matter of fact, with our current car, we're putting about 20,000 miles a year on it for the last 2 years. So, anyway, it just sets you thinking, so why am I carrying around this gas engine, which I don't like to use. I use the gas engine on the interstate or for high-speed traveling, and it worked really well, but I would save those 20 miles of electric-only range for when I got in town. And when I got in town, I could get more than 20 miles out of it. I often did all my business in town and made it 4 or 5 miles back out Valley Drive towards home before the gas engine would kick in and I'd run out of juice. So I learned how to drive it to squeeze more electric miles out of it. And it turned out that basically between the 2 power plants I averaged 50 miles per gallon, which is the original reason I bought the car. I was thinking at the time I was afraid of electric cars. I was afraid of getting stuck out if I traveled, getting stuck on running out of electric power on the highway. And the charging infrastructure back in 2017 is nowhere near what it is like now. And so it wasn't a bad decision at the time, I don't think. However, once you experience it and you get some kind of confidence in it, you go, well, yeah, I'm going to make the leap to electric. Because we had another vehicle anyway, we have a pickup truck. But anyway, what's key to own an electric vehicle, of course, is charging at home. And in our case, we got a 2019 Chevrolet Bolt, and it was a couple years old. We bought it in 2021. And it only had 9,000 miles on it. I guess it was on lease or something. And the reason for that is that it only had a 60 kilowatt hour battery pack. However, this is after we bought the car. It's when GM got in trouble with some battery fires on Chevrolet Bolts. They ended up replacing the electric traction batteries in Chevrolet Bolts for free as a recall item. So in March of 2022, we got a brand new battery pack for that car installed for free. But it was upgraded. It had a 65 kilowatt hour battery pack, not the 60. So all of a sudden we had, instead of a 238 mile range car, we had a 260 mile range car with a brand new battery pack warranted out to 128,000 miles. We owned it for about a year or so after that, and we did some traveling in it. We went to eastern Oklahoma in it once, and we went all the way to San Diego to a car show there. You know, they electrify the English guy, Llewellyn, fully charged car show. And that's a funny story. We got to drive all the way to San Diego and back for free because the Electrify America, for some reason, I forget the reason now, but they were just letting you charge for free because they were having some kind of problems. And so we took advantage of that and drove 1,200 miles on their dime. So anyway, we sold the car at 60,000 miles on it. We sold it to a friend of mine, and he gave us cash for it, and we used that cash for a down on a 2024 Hyundai Ioniq 5, and that was a $49,000 car. We had $17,000 down, and they were giving us $8,000 off on that car when we bought it for some reason. So it was only $41,000 minus $17,000, so we just financed the rest. And that allowed us to buy more car than we probably could afford it normally. But selling the car privately really helped with that. Around this time also, El Paso Electric offered a off-peak rate for electric cars. They call it a whole house rider. But all I had to do was send in proof that I owned an electric car, you know, the VIN number and all that. And I got on this rider, which allows me to charge or do anything, it doesn't matter what. Between the hours of midnight and 8 a.m., my electricity only costs 4.72 cents a kilowatt hour. So as you can imagine, we've run electric heaters at night in like our trailer. We charge the car off peak, and we have 10 kilowatts of solar. So sometimes I charge during the day, but when I do, I only charge at 24 amps or 5.6 kilowatts. And the reason for that is because my excess production is higher than that. So essentially I'm charging the car for free, and I'm on solar power. I got a solar powered car. So, but I keep track of what it would cost to charge the car. It's complicated. We only have $11 to $30 electric bills, and we only spend, if we paid for the electricity, we only spend about $20 a month for electricity. For a car, we're doing 1,200, 1,500 miles a month in. It's, and it just doesn't even show up on our radar. My daughter-in-law was making a comment about how money was tight once and they weren't driving very much. And I kind of remember that with gas cars. It used to be that, you know, if you were working and you were money was a little short, and you wanted to make it to payday, you just cut your trips back, or the price of gas would go up to $4 a gallon, and you would just drive less to account for the fact that, you know, your budget for gasoline was going way up. And I don't have to do that. With our electric car, we can just go anywhere we want, whenever we want. And it came with 2 years of free charging in Electrify America, which is about to end in March. So it's our last chance to use it. Is in February. We'll have owned the car for 2 years, and we're closing in on 40,000 miles on it. So that means we're driving 20,000 miles a year in that car. And we took the Ioniq 5 on a trip to Billings, Montana to visit my brother. And we drove home through Yellowstone National Park, into Wyoming, and down into Colorado on the western side, through charging deserts. And whenever we did reach a charger, I mean, the car, you know, 800-volt architecture, charges from 10% to 80% in 18 minutes. It's just nothing. Stop. You got time to go in and go use the restroom. That's about it. Boom, you're done. Unplug. Get out of here. So it's I don't understand all this concern about electric cars. The car has 300 miles of range, and our bladders don't have 300 miles of range. Our butts don't have it. So these are just non-issues, and charging infrastructure is good enough to travel most places. There's still places in the United States where it's a little thin, but those are pretty much a very small percentage of the total amount of roads that you normally want to travel. And anyone living back east, chargers are everywhere. It's out here in the west, not in California or on the west coast, but in the middle of the west, southwest, and places like Wyoming, Montana, you know, South Dakota, North Dakota. These places, charging infrastructure is still a bit sparse, but it's filling out too. So we love the car. It's I don't understand why anyone wouldn't want a car that's powerful, get up to 60 miles an hour in 5 seconds, quiet, no exhaust emissions. You can run it in your garage. You can take power off of it. If you've got power outage, I can plug into my car. It costs me $20 a month to run it for, you know, I'm driving 20,000 miles a year, and it's costing me $20 a month. If I owned a gas car equivalent, I think my daughter-in-law's and her husband owned a car they drove for 200,000 miles, and he was bragging to me about how he was paid for. And I just told him, look, it may be paid for, but you've spent $19,000 on fuel since you bought that car. So you can imagine how far I could drive. I could drive about 200,000 miles on $3,000. You know, that's a savings. It's incredible. And yet people turn their nose up on it. And then the reason they do is because they don't know. They have not got the practical experience of owning an electric car as a daily driver and for going on trips with it, charging it at home all the time for practically nothing. They just don't have that experience. They can't imagine it. So you can tell them, and I'm telling you now, it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. It's the, if you're driving a gas-powered car, you're driving last century's technology. electric cars are taking over the world's car market. And the only backwater for that is the United States and the Trump administration right now. But he's not going to stop it. And electric cars are still taking over the market in the United States. They're just doing it slower now while this administration screws things up. And all he's doing is damaging the country. So there you have my opinion. Well, that covers all the bases. 15 minutes is a pretty good video. Trying to give you a new angle on videos here. You see this? There's a clock right down there in this corner. On this, right there, I'm pointing at it. There we go. That's our mantle clock. It's the only clock we have like that. It's a pendulum run clock. It's my favorite clock in the house. We spent some money. We bought it for $50, but it cost us $100 or so to get it fixed up so it would run right. Tuned up, whatever, cleaned. But out of all the clocks I own, it's the greatest, and it's an analog clock from the last century for sure. And so I'm not a stick in the mud about the last century. I guess that's my point. Take care, everybody. See you down the road. Bye-bye.